87% of realtors that get into the business get out of the business after 2 years. That does not exist in our world.
We have massive visions around growing our businesses, and we are always looking to add talent to our world. We do everything in our power to ensure the people we surround ourselves with defy the odds, get into production, and build massive lives for themselves.
We have interviewed some of the top realtors in the world. If you're a new realtor, a top producer, or CEO of a mega team, Sales Beast Podcast is your blueprint for success.
With locations all across Canada, reach out to us to talk about partnership and opportunities. We are looking forward to it.
Yes, I'm the boss.
Welcome back to another episode, Sales Beast listeners. Today, Mike and I are here alone, but fret not, we're going to be talking about some amazing subjects today. Something that really comes up in our world a lot, both from like a team leader perspective, leading people and supporting a lot of individuals in their careers, is around accountability and motivation. So I know we have lots of thoughts on that, and feel free to put some comments down in the chat box below on our Instagram or on our podcast pages. We want to hear your thoughts. So Mike, what are we going to talk about?
First, I'm going to ask you how you're doing. How are things?
Things are great. It's been a crazy couple weeks. Lots of exciting stuff coming up. As you know, taking on a coaching role has been awesome. And I've realized that I gotta put some leverage in my life. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
How about you?
Nice. Not much, just chugging away. The market's heated up. Everyone around me is very focused, and we're just starting to reap the rewards. Yeah, I think we're sitting at we have 35 listings right now, which is more than we've ever had. And they're actually moving, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's huge. Same with us. This is crazy. We're looking at the numbers. Our agent count is not much different from where we were at last year. Of course, we've added and taken away people and whatnot, but we're up 37% more listings taken between last year and this year.
That's amazing.
Just huge. We know that our partners, our people are going to reap the rewards in the next couple of months. So very exciting.
No, it's huge. So the reason, I assume you're there, or at least part of the reason you're where you are and I am where I am, is not because of us, but the accountability that maybe we've helped put in place, and what our client or what our agents have actually done. Not our agents, our business partners have done to capitalize on the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the reason is for the spike in listings?
I think it's because the common messages, even since last year, since we started seeing things turn, is like, get back to the basics, get back to the basics. And sure, there's maybe some people that didn't get back to the basics and didn't focus on the lead gen, and that's okay. But there's a lot of people that did, just like as a result of the messaging and the lessons that we were teaching them. So now we're seeing kind of that hockey stick effect that we always talk about. It's going to be a little while where you don't see anything, and then one day all the results are going to come. So I was sitting in our leadership meeting today talking to a lot of our partners, and they were saying the same thing, as like there's aspects of their business that aren't working, but the aspects that are usually just the production pieces right now, and they're focused on like systems or team building because now they're needing to catch up on the leverage side.
Yeah.
What about you?
For us, we have an amazing leadership group at Keller Williams. One person I say I listen to more than anyone else in this business or in this world really is Gary Keller. Everything he says, I'm listening. And he said something that really resonated with me. I probably heard it for the first time 6 months ago, and it was, the path is in the math. And then I started exploring it further. Stumbled upon a podcast with Chris Suarez. We've had him on our show at one point, and he was talking about time management. And the host of the podcast asked him a question about time management. How do you do it? How did you build the largest real estate team in the world? And he described the way he thinks. So his answer was, I know today is whatever date of whatever month in the year, and I am 24.2% through the year. Across all of my businesses, I am 22.2% to target. I know I have a 2% gap that I need to make up. And a light bulb went off in my head. I thought, I have no idea what percentage we are through the year, and I have no idea what percentage to target we are, where we should be at that specific point in the year. So second I heard that, we started tracking everything. So I have a tracker that's filled out every single week. And pull it up here and let you know exactly what we look at. So starts with activities, so contacts. Then it flips to appointments, client signed, transactions, and then GCI. So as I look at it today, we're 11 weeks into the year. Person I'm looking at here, they should be 19,000 in GCI to them to be the target. They should be at exactly 4 transactions, 6 clients signed. And I'm just tracking where they need to be and where they actually are. And we're looking at it almost daily. We have TVs up in the office that play it constantly. And it's really moved the needle. I think one thing that's made it pretty effective for us is that we publish it. So if I'm not doing what I say I'm going to do, the whole office knows about it. We share it on our Monday meeting. It's on TVs constantly. Everybody knows. There's no hiding anymore.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest piece of accountability is just sharing your goals and doing what you say you're going to do. We're a little bit different. Like from a coaching perspective, that's exactly what I work with a lot of my clients on is like just knowing your numbers. I said before we hopped on this episode that really the underlying piece behind accountability is clarity. If you have no idea where the hell you're going, what are you holding yourself accountable to? How do you know if you're moving the needle, if you're ahead or you're behind, if you're leading or you have a gap? You don't. So it just starts with the numbers, and we talk about that often. So you mentioned some of the things that you track. As a team leader, do you set specific standards for your team, or do they set their own goals?
So it goes back to Pathos in the math, so I can explain exactly what the process looks like. My perspective on it is, who am I to tell someone what they should accomplish? If they're comfortable driving Toyota Camry, that works for me. If they want to drive a Lamborghini at some point in their future, that also works for me. I'm not going to make the decision for them. So we ask them what they want to accomplish. Once we know what they want, not how much money they want, what they want their life to look like in a year's time, and how much money it will take to provide themselves with that life. It's called an economic model. So we plug in the net number they want to hit, and it spits out an appointment number at the bottom. Once we have that, because we've been in business for 8 years, I think, we haven't done an amazing job at it, but a lot of what we've done over the last 8 years has been tracked. So I know what level of output someone needs to do in order to book an appointment when they're a new agent. I know how many people they need to speak to on average in order to sell a home. So we set their plan up based on that.
I think something that might be really valuable for our listeners is we have the economic model on our website. I know that for a fact. But if someone hasn't run through that before and like understanding their numbers, I would be willing to do this. But would you be willing to set up our Calendly so that people could just book a discovery call with us and run through the economic model?
100%. Yeah. I'm also game if you want. I can screen share right now. I can literally whip through the process I go through. I'm not going to dig deep into why you want to accomplish what you want to accomplish, but if you give me a net number, I can quickly go through the whole economic model, plug it in the tracker we use, and show you exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, I think one of our older episodes too, we did go fully into the economic model, but I'm curious to see if it's any different from the last time that we did it. So what I'll do is I'll give you screen sharing, and then let's talk about it more in depth.
So you want to make $100,000. So first thing we do is input 100 grand right here. Cost of sale would be 0. I'm running this as though you're on a team. I can also go back and run it as though you're an individual agent. If you're on a team, your operating expenses are normally pretty low. The team's going to cover most of those. What I normally do for our new agents.
Can we just really quickly differentiate what cost of sales versus expenses are?
Yeah. So in my world, the cost of sale is what gets paid out to an agent.
Yeah.
So say there's an agent on our team, they're on a 50-50 split. My cost of sale on that deal is 50%. The only cost of sale that would really exist to an agent on the team may be something like an ISA fee.
I would also relate this back to what you pay your brokerage. So I say cost of sale is like anything that happens at the point of the commission being paid out. So like if you have a referral, if you have a buyer's agent, if you pay your brokerage a certain split and it's capped, you know what your cost of sales are every year.
So we'll do that actually.
Okay.
So if you're on a team in the Keller Williams world, you're paying about 12 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
So approximately 10%, and let's say the same percentage for expenses, 10%, another 12,500. When I meet with a new agent, I don't know them overly well. My assumption is that they're going to do about 50-50 when it comes to buys and sells. 50% of their clients will be buyers, 50% of their clients will be sellers. Next, we have the commission. So on our team for sellers, our average sell side commission right now is 2.7%. And then you multiply that by the split. Buy side commission average is 2.25. You multiply that by the average split. Next, you input the average sale price. So I just pull that from our team's average sale price over the course of the last few months. Right now we're at 775,000.
Mm-hmm.
Next is seller and buyer transaction conversion rate. So seller transaction conversion rate, best way to look at this is what percentage of the sellers you sign will actually sell. Last year for us, that number was about 80%. What percentage of the buyers you sign, you meet with someone, they sign a BRA, what percentage of them will actually end up buying a house? Find that one's a bit lower, 70%. And this is where it gets interesting. Seller and buyer appointment conversion rate. I don't know what you see, Anna, but you know, from my personal experience, when I got in the business, my conversion was horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably sitting at 20%. If you average it out over the year, maybe I was at 40%. So the lower you put the conversion rate, the more conservative your numbers are and the more bulletproof your plan is.
Yeah, 1000%. And like for those that are watching this online on YouTube or something, or in a video format, like you can definitely see the numbers, and like even like just increasing one of those conversions by 1% to 5%, it's a drastic difference. You'll need to take either less or more appointments based on the conversion rates. So by knowing your numbers, by tracking your business, understanding your conversion rates, I mean, that ties right back into our motivation. If you know that you need to go on 10 appointments to sign one listing or 10 appointments to sign 2 listings, well, you also know how many appointments it's going to take you to sign 20 listings or 30 listings or 50 listings. So again, the path is in the math. And I think a lot of agents that struggle with like analysis paralysis don't have clarity on the numbers and just don't have clarity on the math. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah. Well, I think any business is just a big math problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I went very conservative on the conversion. I went at 20% buys and sells. What people are normally most shocked by when they get to the bottom and see the appointment numbers is that they're really not that high. So you can go into the business with very poor conversion, which we all do, and you still only need to book 2 appointments a week in order to make 100 grand.
Yeah.
So once I get to the end of the economic model, there are a few things I want. So you have appointments per week. How many weeks are in a year? There are 52. So you need 113 appointments in a year. And then what we do, we flip to this. Sorry, I'm just going to clean it up a little bit.
Yeah.
When I scroll all the way over, so I have GCI target. What does this individual want to make? What do you want to make, Anna? You want to make 100 grand. How many deals do we need in order to do that? It'll tell us here.
17.2.
17.
I would even round that up to 18.
Yeah, good call. So listings buyers signed, economic model is going to tell us that too. So we have 13 listings signed, 11 buyers for, we'll call it 23. And then we have our appointment target of 113. And then contacts. So when I look at new agents on our team, it depends on what they're doing. But if you take someone that's on the telephone and that's the way they're doing most of their prospecting, what we see is that they're about 1,500 contacts to a deal. So this individual wants to do, said 17 deals, 25,000 contacts. It's a lot. If it's someone that's door knocking, what we find is that 1 in 3 people will actually open the door. So 1 in 3 open the door and you can have a meaningful conversation with them. And then we look at the inventory turnover rate of the area. So in the area where I'm sitting today, the turnover rate's about 6%.
Okay.
So 6 in every 100 homes will sell. And we just work the math backwards. How many doors do we need to knock on? How many people do we need to speak to in order to capture a listing and sell it? I find when you go at the year from this perspective, number one, you don't underestimate the amount of work required. And number two, you always know if you're on track.
Yeah, the other thing we didn't even talk about is that once you understand the math, you can also choose to do like sprint work, right? Like if you know you need X amount of appointments to get X amount of deals to make X amount of money, if you don't want to work for 6 weeks of the year, you just don't take those weeks into account. And then you do the math based on the weeks that you are going to work.
Yeah, that's the other thing we factor in too. We beef up each week because we know most of us at least 2 weeks for Christmas, and then most of us will take 2 weeks of vacation. So don't run it based on a 52-week year, or you're going to be disappointed. Run it based on 48 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Or what's the best way to say this? Ramadan Mubarak is a term I learned the other day. Ramadan Mubarak to anyone that's celebrating. It's really hard. I've never been through it, but I've worked with people from a Muslim background, and it's a grind. You're not eating all day. I would plan that for that month of the year, your level of productivity is probably going to be a little bit lower. You have 11 other months to make up for that. If you don't plan, you can never do that.
Yeah. I think like one thing that we did discuss, and like I think that gives our listeners some clarity too on how to do the math for their own businesses. But one thing that I always come back to, and I think about this constantly, there was like actually a study done, and I've brought this up before on episodes, so you've heard this, just listen to it again and hopefully it resonates with you. We know that when you just have a goal in your head, you only have a 10% chance of achieving it. If you have a goal and write it down, you now have like a 40% chance of achieving that goal. If you have a goal and you write it down and you put timelines around it, you now have like a 65% chance of achieving that goal. But when you do all of those things, you have a plan, you have timelines, you understand the math behind it, and then you add accountability, whether it's through like coaching, mentorship, an accountability partner, your own accountability methods, now you have a 95% chance of achieving it. So do you want to have a 5% chance that you're not going to hit that goal, or a 10% chance that you will? I would way rather know that I'm going to hit my goal 95% of the time.
100%. I think something we didn't talk about during this conversation, but something we always talk about at KW. So what happens before you set these goals, or at least what should happen before you set these goals? In the example we just showed, speaking to 25,000 people in a year, it's going to be a horrible experience at times. It's not fun. Like in our world, they teach us or encourage us to try and find our why. So when the going gets tough and we're putting in the work and we're not seeing the results, it's that why, that reason we show up every day, what we really live for, that will push us through to the
Mhm.
finish line. Can you know more about the why than I do? Something I'm still trying to figure out. Can you explain to people how maybe they can figure that out?
Well, there's a book, Start With Why. That's a great book
Mhm.
to read
I've read that book.
By Simon Sinek, sorry. There's also like YouTube videos if you are not a reader or don't want to commit the time. Like there's so many videos out there that summarize what a why is. I guess in my words, like what a why is, it's your purpose. Like why are you doing the things that you're doing right now? Why do you wake up every day and choose to be in real estate, choose to be a realtor, choose to do what you're doing? And like you said, the going gets tough and you're going to have shitty days. You're going to be rejected. Are going to lose a listing. People are going to shut the door in your face or tell you to F off. And you need to be able to think back and not focus on that one moment of rejection or that one shitty situation, but think back to why you're doing it. And that's the thing that's
Mhm.
going to drive you every single day. Like if you're not self-driven, maybe it's your family, maybe it's a purpose beyond that, maybe it's achieving some sort of financial freedom. And if you haven't done that exercise, just sit down with a pen and paper. It's not difficult, and start thinking about what your why is. The really great thing too about a why is that it's going to evolve over time. Your why today, whatever age you are in life, whatever stage you are in life, it's not going to be the same why as it is tomorrow or in 10 years or in 20 years. So doing it now and then reevaluating it as you're reevaluating your goals constantly is really important too. So like I think back to my big why before, and like I actually probably should sit down and reevaluate it. But it was to have big goals and big dreams and impact the lives of others while creating opportunity and building wealth. And that was my why. And it still is. And I think that as we take on opportunities and as we do different things, like it's about coming back to it and understanding if that still is within your world, if you've achieved it or you need to change it.
Mhm. I read a book recently by Dean Graziosi. I think
Mhm.
that's how you say his name. And he laid out a simple 7-step plan to find your why, and it's essentially to ask yourself 7 questions. Why? Mike, why do you show up at the office every day? To make money. Why do you want to make money? To fund the best life for my family and to support the people that work in my world. Why is that important to you? And it, according to him, a lot of people cry when they go through this exercise. It was really deep. It actually got to my core. I was shocked. Um, and I arrived at was to not disappoint the 12-year-old version of yourself that thought anything and everything was possible. I was the guy that would like I thought Santa Claus was real for far too late into my life. I was like 12-year-old kid asking for my parents for a horse and thinking it would actually show up under the tree the next day, like a real horse. But that one got me. If anyone wants to give it a try, the book's Millionaire Success Habits. It's really good.
Nice. I love that. I found out about Santa on accident, so I'm
Yeah.
blessed to have known for Santa for a long time. It's good.
Yeah. I encourage everyone to like I'm a dad. I'm not gonna say it's my family. I absolutely refuse to say my why is my kids. I think that for me, it's letting myself off the hook. It needs to be something deeper than that. I love my family to death, um, but it needs to be something more. And I'm still searching for it because the why I arrived at was 12-year-old version of myself. I want something much bigger than that also.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I agree with it too, and I constantly hear people talking about like their surface level wise, and I think that if you're listening to this episode, think about your own why and like challenge yourself, and then do this exercise maybe with a partner or a colleague or a friend or a family member, whatever it is, and like encourage each other to go deeper. Because I think if you do it on your own, you'll allow yourself to just fall into the mediocrity of just being like, okay, that's my why. But if you have someone dig deeper on it with you, you're probably going to uncover much more than if you were to do it yourself.
Mhm. Absolutely. The other thing I think we don't talk about enough, we're always talking about why. I think we don't touch enough on reasons. Like if I'm a realtor and I'm living with mom and dad, and I go home every night, regardless of whether or not I sold a house, and there's a roof over my head and a meal on the table and someone that says I love you, it's probably going to be very hard for me to show up and put in the work that's required for me to be successful. If I'm staring down the gun of a mortgage payment and I don't have the money in my bank account to pay it, that's going to motivate me. If I have kids and I'm paying for their school and I maybe don't have the money to do it, that's going to motivate me. If I'm running a real estate business and burning 200 grand a month and I don't know where the money's coming from, trust me, you're going to figure that out and you're going to sell some houses or you're going to be bankrupt. I always try and find reasons. When I got in the business, it was every time money came in, I would go buy a rental property. I would always try and stay as broke as possible. And for me, that has always really got me going.
Well, like one of my favorite quotes is comfortability breeds complacency. And like even on the episode that we had with Chris Chopade, we kind of got into it on part 1, but I think everyone makes so many excuses for themselves. It's so easy to like, oh, I had a doctor's appointment, or oh, this and this happened, but like you should be making excuses for why you are doing things, not for why you're not doing things. I'm doing this because this is what I'm going to get out of it.
Yeah. One thing we did, so by no means is our team perfect. I'm not perfect. No one is. But I don't know, it's maybe a year or so ago, we put in place principles that we live by and we go over them together as a group. So no longer is what I'm doing good nor bad. It's, do they align with the principles or not? We all agreed on the principles. It's something I'm thinking about setting up with my family too. It's just, it makes life so much easier. They act as a filter for behavior.
Yeah, that comes down to like similar to me, like any kind of business that we take on, we set out like our mission, vision, values, beliefs, perspectives, and we follow by the KW ones.
Yeah.
We also have like our motto, and I think yours is similar now too, but like your purpose statement, which for us it's the home of thriving millionaires. And when you think about the whole concept behind it, it's not about just making money, but it's about thriving and actually living a solid life and being on the path to wealth is what's important to us. And you're just naturally going to be surrounding yourself with people by putting out those kind of attributes and values that you want to see. But then it'll also encourage your people to like actually live up to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it really goes a long way because we always talk about the 3 F's, the fun, financial, and freedom. Fast realtors put financial first and fun and freedom come second. Ours are all focused on that. Yeah, the ultimate goal is to create thriving millionaires and bring people to a place that they never thought possible. What we find though is an extremely high level of discipline that gets them there. And that's one of ours, discipline. The ultimate freedom, I cannot make you productive.
Yeah.
And it's something we go over during the hiring process. So people are well aware of what kind of environment they're getting into.
Yeah. And just like the fact that there's no overnight successes, like that doesn't exist.
Like,
I think a lot of people get into this business and think, you know, I'm going to be rich or I'm going to make a shit ton of money. And like, yes, like you can, and there's so much opportunity, but they're not willing to give up the fun and the freedom to reap the rewards.
Yeah. You can get rich here, but you can get rich doing anything if you're the best in the world at it. This is no different. Very few people are willing to stick with this long enough to get rich. I have this thing, I have this photo of our team when I first joined it 5.5 years ago, and I'm the only one left.
Well, I shared
And
the one in
today I
the
sit here and say, oh my God, that's amazing, Mike. You're doing so well. That's so great. Yeah, but the only reason I'm here, one of the main reasons I'm here is because I stuck around. I didn't quit on the people I work with, or on the business.
If you think about it, I think that's also why we've gotten so far with just like opportunities and different things, and like been in conversation with so many amazing individuals. We're pretty damn consistent. Like
Mhm.
we show up every week, we record an episode, we post it every 2 weeks, and it's been now 3 years.
Yeah.
It's like one example, like aside from like the stuff we do with our teams and our businesses, but just having the discipline to be super consistent at everything that we're doing.
Yeah. No, that's really true. I had another thought too. I don't know if you find this, but sometimes I find it to be kind of lonely and discouraging doing this. I imagine you have way more people with you than I do. But if there's a complaint or someone that's not happy or something that's gone wrong, it's always your fault. And it gets in my head at times. And I see one thing we did with our leadership. Sandy is one of those people. We've always played into human behavior. But you have some people in your office that say, Anna, you're amazing. Thank you so much for helping me. You've changed my life. This is incredible. I've always done that with Sandy, and I know you've done the same. And it's basic human behavior. People like to hear nice things about them. When someone's impacted you, they like to hear that they've done that. Very few people do that. And I didn't know I was doing that, but when I look back on the last 5 years, it's always been credit to him for changing my life, credit to him for the opportunity, credit to him for dragging himself through the mud so now I can have this opportunity. And I imagine because we did that, and because he's human, he maybe gave us a little bit more time and attention relative to others. That's now that I know that, I'm purposeful about it.
Okay, so I'm gonna give like a huge shout out because I told you this, but I've been listening to the Maxwell podcast, and they just did an episode the other day where they reviewed 7 tactics around having stronger communication, and it's literally what you just talked about. So he goes into the 7 tactics, and number 1 is humility and just being humble and letting people know that you need them no matter what position you're in, whether you're at the top or at the bottom or sideways in between, like just letting people know that you need them. And I think as leaders, sometimes we just like think that people need us and not the other way around, where you can be vocal and vulnerable and let people know that you need them. You can accomplish so much more by doing that. The second thing to really connect with people that he talked about is coming from curiosity and just constantly asking questions. And I think we're both really good at that. And if you think back to like when you first got into like a leadership path and versus now as a leader, I would say personally, I did what they told us not to do, is like directing versus connecting.
Yeah.
So where directing your like connecting obviously takes a lot more effort, but when you're directing, like you're finding them on the ground versus going out of your way to connect with people. And like being a connector, like you're always making that first move versus waiting for people to come to you. And that kind of brings me to my whole point around like being a self-made person, or like hearing from people that are self-made. Like it's bullshit. Like you need people to support you in growth, like no matter where you're at. And then the last 3 points were around like trustworthiness, generosity, and encouragement, and being a better listener.
I love that. It sounds like we're both binging John Maxwell's podcast right now.
Pretty much. Like I'm in love with his podcast. So good.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it. I mean, I said it earlier, but if you guys are struggling with getting clarity on what your goals are, like don't hesitate to reach out, book a discovery call. Our links are both in Mike's Instagram and my Instagram. I have my Calendly link in there if you want to book a call with me. I think you have your Calendly link as well in your Instagram handle, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'd love to hear from you guys. Put any comments and thoughts down in the box below. Thanks.
Every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day.